Okay, gonna try this again. I'm sorry about the audio issues on my first try, but you know, I just learning all this stuff on the fly here. I probably should have tested a few things out before I got started. You know, this is how I used to do the openings in my videos. You know, I still probably will use this every now and then, but you know, when I started my channel in January, it was cold, it was rainy, you know, all that kind of stuff. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to start my channel to start getting information out there on my McLean, you know, and it's not just my McLean, but it's the McLean, the greenskeeper. So I started this channel and I was going to post some videos regarding how to do repairs, maintenance, that sort of thing on the McLean, you know, how good a cut it gets, you know, just kind of the overall review on it, you know, all that kind of information. And then I started doing some lawn care stuff because, you know, there's a lot of bad information out there on the internet, of course, YouTube. A lot of these lawn care guys are just putting out a lot of bad information. So then I started doing research and getting into the whole, you know, information on how to take care of your yard. What do you really need to do? You know, what's good, what's not good, that sort of stuff. So I'm just putting some information out there. Gonna go ahead and start right into it here and get on to my first screen. And we're gonna talk about sod plugs, how to repair your yard. This is how I repaired the grass being higher than my sidewalk. I wanted my grass to be pretty level with the sidewalk. And when I planted it and I added all the extra dirt and sod and all that, or all the extra dirt and planted it, you know, it grew thicker and it was higher than the sidewalk and I didn't want that. So I cut these sod plugs out here and I basically made it level with the sidewalk. And, you know, I did this in like January. So it's a bad time of year to do it. It was actually last year. I think it was June actually last year, whatever. But this is how I've been doing repairs in yards for a long time. I do sod plugs, sod cutting. You know, I have a little cutter that cuts the squares out, and everything makes it a lot easier. You know, this was the grass extension I did on my putting green, and I'm going to show you that in this video as well, what I did. This is where I put all that sod from that sod cutting I was doing. I put it in my side yard and I used it for doing replacement, like you see right here. Got my sod plug cutter. And I repair bad spots in my yard. And, you know, it works really, really well. This was back in February when I did this repair. You know, I cut the sod plugs out, I put it over there, and I waited for spring. And we're gonna show you how this looks as of today and everything. It took a few months for it to, you know, fill in, of course, because, you know, grass doesn't really grow that great in the wintertime. So that's how it looked, finished product after doing the sod cutting. That spot there had some overspray from some weed killer I'd put down in the beds, some glyphosate. This here is dead bent grass. I started using Tenacity in my yard in November. I had a lot of bent grass that had spread into my main yard. This is Kentucky bluegrass here. And I used Tenacity to kill it because, you know, bent grass does not like Tenacity, as you can see here. The bad part about it was I did this in the wintertime, so the grass wasn't growing and it just looked dead and you know, terrible. I couldn't stand looking at it. So I got tired of looking at it and I got my sod plug cutter out and I cut these brown spots out, all of them, and replaced them with the grass in my side yard. And I don't take care of that grass, and I probably should have, because what ended up happening is the grass was not the same color. It's the exact same grass, exact same cultivar, but it ended up not being the same color. Here's the side patch right here I'm cutting the plugs out of. And what I did was I put the bad plugs back into that side yard nursery, I guess you could call it. That's what everybody else calls theirs. And, you know, I use this side patch. I thought it was a great idea. Since I had all that sod I had cut out, I would just use it to do some repairs. If I got POA, that sort of thing. And that's basically what I use it for. So this year I'm actually gonna get it in good shape and looking good. Here you can see I'm putting the bad plugs in there. I'm gonna show you a picture later on of what it looks like when the, well, here it is right here. That's what it looks like as of right now. all the grasses filled back in and regrown. So I just basically patching the yard, putting these plugs in and repairing these spots. And I'm going to show you later on in the video here what this looks like as of today. I'm working on getting those areas fixed. In my backyard, POA. In March, I found the POA, and I had I don't know how many. I had little bunches popping up everywhere. But you know, I monitor my yard and I pay attention to what's going on, and I'm always looking, because POA, I don't want it. I don't want to see it. So there's a nice worm in that clump. So here's some POA right here. Got some seed heads and just a nice big clump. You can see the light green that it has to it. And you can see I got it just as the seed heads were starting to grow. And that's what you want to do. You want to get this POA as soon as it starts popping up in your yard. You want to get your weed puller like I have, and you want to get that out of there, okay? Because once those things seed and start dropping seeds, your next season is doomed. And the bad thing about POA is the seeds, they last a long time. I'm not going to say forever, but it seems like forever because it just keeps coming back. Here's a nice example of baby seed head right here. Okay, stopped it before it even started. Okay, that's the key to taking care of POA. You can spray, you can do pre-emergent, you can do all those sorts of things, and those things are going to help if you're using ethofumazate and you're using a good pre-emergent with the thiopyr and barricade, those sorts of things. So this mow right here is actually the same day that I pulled that POA, and you can see that the grass doesn't look as light green as it did in the previous video, and that's just because lighting, cameras, all that sort of stuff, the automatic brightness on the cameras. You know, I don't do any adjusting to any of my videos. They are what they are. Whatever time of day I record my video, what it looks like is what it looks like. So this is March 1st. And I started doing all this work in my backyard. You can see I have some bad spots here, right down here. And I'm working on this year fixing this bad seeded area right here. Have a large tree right on the other side of this fence that my neighbor has. And it was creating a lot of shade, and I was having a real hard time getting the grass to grow over there. So here we are, a couple weeks later. Grass is looking pretty good. You can see I'm working on, I removed some trees down here, and then I have the patch over here of a tree that I had pulled out. I'm getting ready to do some seeding, and then here you can see I've actually finished my seeding. I have a whole video coming up on this project here that's going to include everything from removing the trees, how I prepped the soil, how I got it started and got it going. This is basically just maybe a week or so after I had planted that grass. But I wanted to show you my backyard here because I don't do anything in my backyard. I don't fertilize. I don't really weed kill or anything. I mean, I do occasionally. What I have been doing though, is I've been, you know, that stupid thing about coffee grinds pops up on my Google feed all the time. And I started doing it. We drink a lot of coffee. I have her throwing all the coffee into a bin now, and I save it, and when it gets full, I throw the coffee out. It's about once every 2 months. And I throw it out, and that's what I'm using for my nitrogen. You know, coffee grounds is supposed to be high in nitrogen. So I've been testing that for probably about 4 months. I think I started doing that at the beginning of the year. So it actually looks really good. And then here's a good sample of what I was talking about this is the same day as that other video where I was mowing. The grass looks a little different. So next, my grass extension. This was my project that went really bad from last year. I pulled all that sod out and I extended my cutting green all the way out this way. This project went wrong for a multitude of reasons. Everything from doing it the wrong time of year. I use this soil called Tagro. It's something Pacific Northwest. also on top of that, because I did it in the heat of the summer, it was a bad time for the bent grass to start during the run. So I took my Sungo, which I use my Sungo for everything. I got the Scarifier blade on it, and I am basically working on leveling out, grinding out some areas, and leveling it out. Here my time lapse, I dragging it, rolling it, raking it, dragging it, rolling it, raking it. I do it over and over and over. You know, trying to get this grass level of 2 millimeters to match on both sides is really difficult. This is a really tough project. So that was one of my things I had issue-wise with when I first did it. There was just too many high spots. I did so many things wrong. I rushed it. I did it the wrong time here. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I guess I should watch my levels a little bit more. Anyways, so my extension here, I'm not going to show you all this stuff over again here. Let me just go ahead and fix this real quick. Jump ahead. And like I was saying, my keys to doing any kind of repair when you're trying to do any kind of reseeding, like I've done here, is leveling. You're rolling it, making sure it's compact, leveling it, raking it. You know, I use a drag with a 2 4x4s together with a rope, and I use it to drag. I've been doing it for ever since I was a little kid. I learned it from my dad when we did our first yard. It's an easy way to be able to, as one person, drag your yard to get it level. Because with that board, since it's 8 foot long, you know, when you drag it across the dirt, you're going to see the high and low spots as it's dragging across. And it's going to make it easier so you know, hey, I need to fill in a little bit of dirt right here because it's not straight. You can put a level on it as well, and you can level your grass. And like I said, it's just 2 4x4s, you know, strapped together, piece of rope, and I drag it. I'm going to show that more in my project that I'm doing right now, my front yard that I'm just completing. And I'll show you that actually in work, in, you know, working and how I use it and all that stuff, even in small spots. So like I said, you know, the key here for getting a good reseed to happen is this raking, rolling, dragging, leveling. You know, even if you don't have a level rake, you can use that 4x4. You can put some weights on it, you know, anything you can to make it heavy, but not too heavy where you can't drag it. You know, I'm getting older. It's getting harder for me to, you know, drag that sort of stuff, my hands, my shoulders. So I try to make it, you know, as easy as possible, but it also needs to be heavy and do its job. So the drag really helped out here in getting this level. So here's my time lapse growing that bent grass. I'm doing quite a few time lapses right now of grass growing from seed, and I'm going to have those videos in the future. But this is bent grass. I started this on March 15th, and the finale of this time lapse is April 15th. So this was a month process here of this time lapse, and you're going to see, you know, it grew in really quick. Now, when I started this and I started planting this, you know, the temperatures were cold. I mean, you know, Western Washington, Pacific Northwest, man, summer doesn't start till after the 4th of July. You know, we're lucky to get some warm temperatures. Here you can see I got some scalping going on here. You know, that's another thing about low mowing. You know, if you get your lawnmower just a little bit pushed too hard down on it, you know, cutting it 2 millimeters, it's going to tear your lawn up. And that happens. I'm very impatient with mowing, and sometimes I'm doing it after 7 o'clock at night, and I'm rushing it, and I'll push down too hard on the front and I'll get it to dig in. You know, cutting at 2 millimeters, there's no room for error. So here I'm going to show you some iron application. Iron, you know, this before and after here, there's a simple answer to why iron works so quickly. And a lot of people don't realize this. They're like, oh my God, this iron is so great. It's working so quick. And oh, geez, I can literally watch it turning green. And you know, you can literally watch this grass turn greener. And I'm using my bent grass as the example right here, because bent grass is such a lighter green in color. And so when you're spraying iron on your bent grass, it's kind of the same thing as if you sprayed this on your concrete. If you spray liquid iron on your concrete, what happens? It stains your concrete, turns it like a rust color. Well, that's exactly what it's doing to the grass, okay? This isn't the iron getting in there and working like super extra fast to get your lawn green. This is actually iron staining your grass blades, okay? Yes, this iron is gonna get down in the roots, and yes, it's gonna make your grass greener, but the initial effect is staining. Here's a good example after. You can see I'm still spraying right here. And this is just a before and after. This is just before I started spraying. And this is literally less than 5 minutes after, because you can see I'm still spraying my yard over here. Sorry, my screen doesn't go all the way across where I can't go, whoa, hey, I'm way over here. Anyways, so I'm still spraying. And I just wanted to use this example to show people, you know, you think something you're using is a miracle product because, oh my God, my grass turned really green, really fast. Well, here's your answer. Iron stains your grass and makes it look darker, makes it look greener. Nothing but. It actually kind of turns it, it puts a black tinge to it. And you know, if you spray too much iron on it, I've actually done this. When I first started using this extreme green, this is what I use right here. Extreme green, okay? This is just heptahydrated, it says right here. Heptahydrated, iron sulfate, heptahydrate, and manganese sulfate. It's also got sulfur in it. This is a very fine granular product. It's water soluble. You put it in your tank sprayer, you mix it up, it dilutes very, very quickly. It's a 50-pound bag is what I have. I've had it for over 2 years, okay? You don't use very much of it, and if you use too much of it, it will turn your lawn black. I've seen it happen, and sometimes when I overlap and I'm putting down a heavy coat or a heavy application of it, it literally does turn your lawn black. Okay, I'll get little black stripes in my putting green from that. My Kentucky bluegrass, you don't see so much of it. It's not something you can really visually see, you know, notice because the grass is already so dark. But this product will literally turn your grass black if you use too much, okay? And like I said, it's just about staining, okay? A couple of days, it washes off, it's gone. But the iron does get into your grass, and your grass, you know, takes it up, and it does start turning green from the actual iron itself. Now, I do want to point out a couple of things here. If you're applying liquid iron, you're going to get great effects. If you're applying any granular iron product, it is not going to give you this green, okay? I don't care what any other lawn channel tells you, they're just wrong, okay? I've been researching a lot of these different things that these lawn care channels start telling us, and I stopped doing everything because I found out that all this stuff that they're telling you, you don't need to do. Now, if you want to, you can, okay? But if you think you're applying a granular iron product like Ironite or something like that, and you're getting a greening up from it, it's not happening, okay? The iron in those products generally oxidizes within 5 minutes of you putting it down. Okay, that's without water, without anything. The iron itself is not doing any benefit to your turf grass, okay? And this is granular. The rule of thumb is for micronutrients, you want to foliar apply. You want to do liquid. You want to do backpack spraying for your micronutrients. That's the best way for your plant to uptake any kind of micronutrients. That's your irons, you know, your manganese, your magnesium, sulfur, those sorts of things. Now, your macronutrients, your nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which I hate even saying phosphorus and potassium, because you know what? You shouldn't even be applying that. Okay, if you are and you're applying it more than once a year, you're way overdoing it. You're listening to these yard care channels too much. Okay, you only need to be applying nitrogen. Okay, nitrogen is the most important thing for your turf grass. Okay, if your grass is showing signs of deficiency in like potassium or phosphorus, yeah, you need to add some. But you know, your grass can survive on as little as 16 parts per million of potassium and not show any effects. Plenty of research documented papers that are refereed that have gone over this over and over and over again. This whole thing about potassium preventing heat stress, it's just not true, okay? There is no evidence, there's no researched evidence to show that potassium does anything to prevent heat stress, okay? What potassium does though, if your grass starts going into heat stress, it's looking for potassium, okay? You just need to have it so that the turf grass can uptake that potassium that's in the ground, you know, in your soil, and start providing those nutrients, or creating those, not nutrients, those enzymes that are required for the plant to start dealing with the heat stress, okay? And it's just about enzymes, okay? That's all potassium is doing. It's helping the plant produce the enzymes to help protect it from the heat, okay? That's all it's doing. A second thing about macronutrients is, you know, these are mobile nutrients. Okay, what that means is the plant will steal it from the oldest parts of the plant to start the newer parts of the grass. So the younger grass growing, the newer blades and all that stuff. So when you start seeing a deficiency in potassium or phosphorus, you're generally going to see it in the older grass blades. If you get down in your grass and you start looking at it, you're going to notice the older grass blades are dying and the younger ones are surviving in green. That's generally your first sign that you have a macronutrient problem: nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium. Okay? I use Google AI. I ask it questions all the time. I drive around in my truck and I talk to it and I ask it questions, you know, just to get information. I don't believe everything it says, but some of the things are pretty easy. Okay, basic information. Hey, what does a potassium deficiency look like? What does a phosphorus deficiency look like? You know, what am I looking for? And it will give you the general information on what you're looking for. Okay, you know, pink veining, or purple veining in the leaf blade. You know, dying leaves. You know, that sort of thing. So all I'm saying here is you need to watch what you're adding to your soil. Okay. These lawn care guys, most of them are trying to sell you a product, which, you know, that's fine. That's great. You want to buy products, you want to listen to what they're telling you and buy their products, you know, that's why they're there. Okay, most of those guys are making a living off of doing this and selling you a product you don't need. Okay, I would name a few of these channels out, but there are a lot of them are the big channels that are telling you this stuff. There's one guy that's telling you, you know, potassium will green your lawn. Potassium doesn't green your lawn at all. There is no scientific research paper that can back any of that up, okay? And that's all I'm trying to deal with here, is I'm trying to deal with real facts, okay? Nitrogen, iron, it's all I add to my lawn. And that's why I'm showing you a lot of videos of my lawn. So I had this great idea. I got this dirt delivered here. A buddy of mine told me about this great thing that he had made to sift out dirt. Well, I thought when I bought this dirt, it was going to be great dirt. It was going to be, you know, triple mix, topsoil, sand, compost, you know, all that good stuff. Now, it's rocks, okay? It is straight up rocks. Look, I'm going to put a few shovelfuls of this dirt in here. And this is just it used to be a hand sieve, and I would fill it up on top of my my Gorilla cart here, and I would just shake it, and I would shake the dirt out of it. Well, my buddy was telling me that he added this concrete vibrating motor to his shaker, or his screen that he made, and it sifted his dirt great. So I've put, like, I don't know what, 4 shovelfuls in there, Okay, this is just 4 shovelfuls of dirt I put in this. This is how unhappy I was with this dirt right here. I bought 5 yards of it to do my neighbor's yard and my yard. And for my grass extension I'm doing, I need good dirt. And this dirt, full of rocks. So this sifter saved me from putting a bunch of rocks in my new grass extension I'm doing. And look at this, piles of this is 4 shovelfuls I put into this thing, and you can see all the rocks in here just bouncing around. Okay, now I use this also to sift out my dirt. In my yard extension I'm doing in the front here, I had a bunch of bent grass that was growing over into my flower bed and stuff like that, big chunks of it. And I had to dig it out because, bent grass, it's a laterally growing, and it's going to root, and it's going to stretch and grow. And so I had to get all the roots out and everything. So I dug out the big clumps of it to get the whole thing out. But I wanted to sift the dirt out of it because they were big, huge chunks. I'm going to show you here in just a second. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and move forward here. So here we go, right here. So big chunks of bent grass. Now this dirt is really wet, and that's the only bad thing about this shaker. With wet dirt, it's a little bit more work to get it to sieve it out, and so I'm having to put a little extra work in it. Dry dirt, it works great. It puts that right through really, really quick. So anyways, I'm cleaning out the dirt here, getting the bent grass out, because I want to recycle this dirt and I want to use it. If there ends up being some bent grass that grows out of it, it's not a problem. You use tenacity. Tenacity will kill the bent grass. Very simple. So this is my shaker. This is a $40 concrete vibrating motor. It just plugs in. I think this one here, I have a video on this where I link to you can get it on Amazon. You could probably get it at Harbor Freight, eBay, all those sorts of places. This was just, I think it was a 60 watt, 3600 RPM vibrating motor. And it's working great. You can use it for for compost. You can use it for peat moss, any dirt, topsoil, anything that you need, organic compost, chicken manure, you name it. If you want to screen it, you just buy the screen of the size you want to screen it to. Right here, I'm using the 1/4 inch chicken wire, square cut. And, it sifts it out really, really well. It makes a really nice dirt. I actually used it yesterday, sifting out all of my topsoil, my compost, my peat moss, and even some sand. I made a 4-way mix of my own for my grass extension I did in my front yard because I didn't want any rocks in it. Okay, it's really important to me in my front yard. My front yard is what I really try to take care of. So now I'm just going to kind of get into some videos here. These videos here are going to go back on a few mows. You can see here, this is my extension project I'm working on right here. I haven't quite finished pulling out the plants in it, but this was about a month ago. I think this was April 15th when I did my first drone video here. And I'm just kind of showing the overall look of my lawn and where it's at. I think I might have sprayed some iron or nitrogen on it at this point. And the weather was really good on April 15th. It didn't last very long, but that's the thing about Washington. Like I said, summer doesn't start till July 4th. So between now and then, we're going to get rain, and we're going to get cold, and we're going to get hot, and we're going to get cold, and it goes back and forth. It's really tough this time of year. So like I said, I built a retaining wall, and I leveled the height of the dirt to match with the putting green here, so I can grow some more Kentucky bluegrass along that edge over there. And then these overheads here are going to show my patches that I made. Now you see here my putting green, it's not quite filled in there. That's April 15th. That one spot there, it took a little longer for it to fill in the top right. It did fill in though, and it's actually looking really good. You're going to see in the next few videos. Anyways, right here you can see, so these are the patches I did. You can see the lightness and color. And it's just a difference, and you can see how much darker it is around it because I'm adding more nitrogen and iron to it to try to get it to color up. Problem is I, put too much in that one little area, and it made a little patchy spot there that was a little darker than everything else. So this is my drone landing here. This is my Kentucky bluegrass, cut it 1/4 inch. It's nice and tight. It's got a good look to it. It's nice, real deep green. It's pretty simple to maintain now that it's mature, but Kentucky bluegrass is a tough grass to get started. It takes a couple of weeks for it to even germinate. Here's my putting green. Drone landing on the putting green. The drone camera only goes so low. You can see here how much lower this grass is to the ground. Cut at 2 millimeters. The McLean greenskeeper is advertised to cut at 3 millimeters. Gone over this a bunch of times. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing it. Here's that other spot that I had repaired over there in the front. I'll have another close-up of it a little bit later, but that was where I did that really big patch repair from the dead grass from glyphosate. You can still see a couple of light patches kind of through here of the areas I had patched. You don't really notice it from, here's that area right here that I had repaired. Well, I actually did the whole line of grass on the sidewalk here. I lowered it all. It was all about, 1.5 inches, 2 inches above the sidewalk. Now it's pretty much level. It's grown thicker and it's a little bit above, but for the most part, it's pretty level with the sidewalk there. And you can see my water meter. It's totally stained from iron application. I got my Ryobi Expand It right there. Got the blower attachment on it. Works really, really good. And I also edged that as well. So back to my Kentucky bluegrass, just kind of showing you these spots here. This is the sprinkler head right there. And then this is the repair job I did on the green. And you can see I'm cutting it here. I don't think I'm cutting it at, I can't tell, I'm looking to see. I was cutting it at 1/4 inch while it was growing because I didn't want to cut it too short. So I was cutting at the same height as my Kentucky bluegrass. Here I am landing. You can see how low the putting green grass is right here. I'm going to get a couple close-ups in some future videos of how well that looks. So here's another day. This is a couple weeks ago. You can see the grass is starting to really fill in that bad spot of that corner. It was really slow to start. My side flower bed on my walkway right there, you can see all those plants are now removed. And I've just been moving along with that project. But I'm really happy with how that repair worked on the reseed on that putting green turned out. And I'm now cutting it at below 2 millimeters. I'm actually cutting my whole putting green at about 1.5 millimeters to get it ready for scalping. I'll get ready to level it, sand it and level it. And I'm hoping that's going to kind of bring it all together because I do still have a few low spots. Yeah, here you can see all the little polka dots in my yard from my plugs repairs. The drone video, it shows up really, really well. And this just basically shows you, the difference from a taken care of and fertilized patch of grass and an unfertilized patch of grass. I put those two together and I have light colored Kentucky bluegrass and I have dark colored Kentucky bluegrass. And I'm just waiting for it to all kind of mesh up and marry up with each other. Probably should just stop fertilizing and let everything kind of absorb everything that's in the ground and start from scratch. And we'll kind of see what happens. Again, I've got my McLean. So you see my yellow roller on there. That's what gets it to where I can cut below 3 millimeters, which is what the stock roller will get you. My custom roller there is 2.5 inch. The McLean stock roller is 2 7/8 inches. Yeah, here's where I'm starting to cut it shorter. You can just kind of tell because I see down back over here, these little scalp marks right down here. Okay, that's the new grass area right there. And I've always had a problem in that area with it being a little high. And it's not as bad as it was, but you can see the mower is cutting it and scalping it. So that's like one of the areas I need to concentrate on. And then there's this line right up over here between where the new and old grass is. There's a line where it meets, and it's pretty close. You can still see in this video here, you can see some dirt coming through, but that's just because this grass is really only a month old. Actually, it's almost 2 months now. And like I said, I just started cutting it short, so it still needs to kind of fill in. You know, it's creeping bent grass, so it's going to creep and it's going to tighten up and fill in a little bit better. But like I said, when I scalp it and I sand it and level it, it should fix that problem. You know, think about it, 1.5 millimeters is not that much. But the mower cuts great. If you look at the grass here, it's really nice. My main part of my putting green that I did from the very get-go, solid. It's solid. I should have just done everything all at once, one patch. It's really solid, it's really level. There is a little bit of undulation to it. I've done some putting on it. I didn't get that in on this video here. I did some putting last night with one of my neighbors. And I told him, I said, this is where the hole is right now. It's a trick. I said, if you think you're going straight for it, if you're a little bit to the right, it's going to break to the right. If you're a little bit to the left, it's going to break to the left. Okay? So it's actually a really tricky pin position, and I didn't even know it when I put it there. I just started hitting balls. And on top of that, it does slope down from the house to the sidewalk. It slopes down, so it's uphill going back the other way. I'm getting ready to move the cup. I was thinking of doing that today. I've had it in the front there for a while. My neighbor came over, and his third shot, he put it in from all the way across, I don't know, it's probably a 25 feet, something like that. He sunk a 25-footer after the third shot of trying to get used to it. He's never putted on it before. He's an avid golfer, and he loves it. He loves my yard. A lot of people walk by my yard, and they're, you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys get this, you know, is your grass even real? Is that real grass? People are afraid to walk on it. They don't want to touch it. They don't, you know, I say, you know, hey, come on up here, you know, check this out. You know, you can touch it right here. You can walk on it, take your shoes off, you know, all that kind of stuff. And people are like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, no, it's no problem. You can totally come up here. Because people, I don't know what it is about grass and walking on it. I think grass is made to be walked on. I know in the military, man, they don't like you walking on the grass. It's the weirdest freaking thing. But yeah, you get caught in the Navy or the Marines or whatever, and you're walking on the grass, you're in trouble. I don't know. I thought grass was made for walking on and hanging out on. So anyways, this is, you know, probably last week mowing, because I did some transplanting of some flowers and stuff like that. And my retaining wall down here in the bottom corner, it is almost done. But it actually is done, I think, right there. I'm just waiting for it to dry. Yeah, so this was last Saturday, because I finished that. Actually, that might not be. It looks like I'm still missing a few bricks. Yeah, so when I built this retaining wall, I was going to build it with, it's only 12 inches high. I was going to build it with 6-inch bricks, and then I ended up going with a 4-inch, but I bought the amount of bricks I needed for 6-inch, so I ended up short. Imagine that, right? So when I finished this, I was like, well, you know, it was pretty close to the end of the day. I was like, I'll just deal with that next weekend. So the next weekend, I went and I got the, that was last weekend, I went and got more bricks and, or paver, whatever you call them, and finished that last weekend. And then I was, a nice little landing on the putting green right there. Just another shot of the grass and the tightness. I really like that putting green grass. This is the Kentucky bluegrass right here. Yes, I'm sure none of you saw my sharpening my blade backlapping video, but I have a backlapping video I did where I totally took my bed knife off and I cleaned up my whole mower, my reel, and everything like that. And you know, down on my sidewalk here, or up here on my sidewalk, I was mowing one day, a couple months ago, and I took in a rock. It was totally white, totally blended in with the sidewalk, and I took in a good sized rock on my mower, and it literally put a dent in my, I have a bend in my bed knife now, and it actually leaves a stripe right where that bend is. So I have to get a new bed knife, and I'm not going to do that until after I get my scalping and sanding done here on my putting green. So this is last weekend right here because I have the grass filled in. Actually, this is yesterday. Maybe this is Wednesday, I'm not sure, but I had finished, I was almost done with my retaining wall project and getting my grass seed planted, and it just started downpouring rain. I was ready to put the grass seed down. I was ready to just finish it. I had an hour left and it just started downpouring on me and I couldn't get it done. I mean, I was getting soaking wet out there, and it's really hard to plant grass seed in the downpour rain. So I didn't get it finished last weekend. I actually finished it yesterday. It only took me like an hour. But I have the shaker now, and I did the sieve and I shook all that dirt that I had used. So I'm going to end this video here with a couple of videos. My sprinkler system, I took this video here. I have 3 circuits. I use all Rainbirds, and it covers my grass really well. So that's the first circuit. This is the second circuit right here. And this is basically covering my Kentucky bluegrass with a little bit of coverage on my putting green. You know, I don't water for very long. It only goes for a couple minutes a cycle. You know, this time of year, I just do it enough to get it wet. It dries out pretty quick with the wind and the sun and stuff like that because it's cut so short. I don't have any weeds. Actually, I can't say that. I have one weed. I just saw it the other day. It's right back up over in here. It's actually like a clover type weed. And you know, I usually just spray my yard with Tenacity because I've been killing that bent grass. I haven't really used any Tenacity probably for 2 months now, maybe a little longer. I stopped using it. I'm going to be doing all post-emergent type weed killing this year. I didn't put any pre-emergence down because I'm doing some of the seeding and stuff like that. In my backyard, I'm doing a lot of seeding back there, trying to get it going. But I'm pretty much a post-emergent type weed guy anyways. I don't really use too many pre-emergents. I mean, once my lawn gets really, really established, I probably won't. I really don't get why all these people like to overseed twice a year, do all that sort of stuff. I don't do any overseeding. I don't do any aeration. I feel like if you do your lawn right the first time, you don't need to go back and aerate it. The only reason you need to aerate is if you have a really hard soil, compacted ground. And even then, the best way to deal with that is to remove the top layer. When I redid my lawn first time, I had killed it all off. I came in with the sod cutter. I cut the grass out about, what is that, about 2 inches down, maybe more, 2.5. I took all the grass out. I rototilled it. I took out all the grass root clumps out. I have a video of that when I did that a couple of years ago. For me, I feel like doing it the right way the first time is going to prevent you from having air raid, because you know air raid is a very aggressive way to deal with your lawn. It's a shock to your lawn. It's going to stress your roots out. You know, a lot of people talk pro about it and say you need to do it, but you know what? If you do things right the first time, you shouldn't have to go back and aerate. I have never aerated a lawn in all my life, never. But I have redone lawns, and when I do it right. Because after I pulled my topsoil, my sod off, I put down 3 or 4 inches of topsoil. And back then when I did it, I got a really good blend of topsoil. I didn't have any rocks in it. And I used that, and my lawn, you can feel a little bit of give to it when you walk on it. It's not like a hard, compact, you know, soil that you walk on and it's like a rock. It's very soft, it's very forgiving. You can stick a screwdriver down in it, no problem. But that's how I feel if you have a compacted ground. You're going to redo your yard, do it right the first time. Put the work in. I've done all my yard renos pretty much by myself. I've had a few people come over and help me here and there, but nobody ever helped me completely on a project. I've done all my projects on my own. I have about 3,200 square feet of yard. This is about 19. My backyard's about 15, something like that. I've redone both of them twice. And each time I brought in 10 yards of dirt. If you don't know what 10 yards of dirt looks like, watch one of my videos. I have a shot of it. The pile of dirt I had delivered when I did my shaker video, that was only 5 yards. So it was twice that amount of dirt. And I've added 20 yards of dirt to my yard in total over the last couple of renovations. This year I didn't like put it down to, and I put it in so many different areas to kind of spread around. Plus, you know, it's all the rocks I got. A couple of wheelbarrows full of rocks. So that's just my take on aerating. You know, it needs to be done if you have compacted soil, but the ultimate thing is you really just need to do it right if you're using the yard. Get that topsoil out, get that top layer of grass, get all the roots out, rototill it, get it all loosened up, get some really good sandy topsoil in there with some compost and you know, dirt, and mix that in with it. Make sure you get all the root balls out. Drag it and roll it. Drag it and roll it. Get it nice and compact so it doesn't settle too much. I have had a little bit of issue with some settling in my yard, and you know, those are the things that I just do. I just really got tired of listening to all these YouTube guys telling me what I needed to do and telling me all these products I had to do, and you got to overseed twice a year. You got to use this, you know, 6 times a year. And it's just not true. It's so not true. You know, I did a soil sample on my yard with the Mehlich 3, and I compared it to the My Soil Test, and I found that the My Soil Test, you shouldn't even be using it. You use a My Soil Test, the results you get, not even worth paying attention to. Everything from the pH all the way on down to the micronutrients, everything was wrong. And you know, using a Mehlich 3 type test that you could probably get through your county for free, or you could do with like soilkit.com online, anywhere that you can get a Mehlich 3 type test done, it's way worth it. The benefits are going to outweigh the time that it takes and the cost that you may have to spend on doing it. When I compared the My Soil Test to the Mehlich 3 test that I got, the numbers were so far off it wasn't even funny. And you know, the reality is that the My Soil Test Kit, based on the oh man, I forget the process. It's a resin absorption type process, ion exchange resin, I believe it is. It basically just their process is it absorbs the nutrients out of the soil into this pouch, and then they test the pouch for the different kinds of chemicals. It's just totally a not verified or scientifically researched verifiable type of soil test, and you shouldn't be doing it. If you are, good luck to you. But I feel that they're a waste of your money. All my numbers were off. My pH numbers were off. Potassium levels were way off. My phosphorus levels were way off. You know, it said I needed phosphorus, and I don't need phosphorus because I have too much, because I listen to YouTube guys, and now I have all this phosphorus on my lawn that I can't get rid of because I listen to YouTube. So I stopped doing that. I probably got enough potassium and phosphorus in my lawn to last me 20 years. So I'm not adding any. If I see the deficiency in it and I test for it and it shows with the Mehlich 3 test, I'll add it. But other than that, never using a My Soil test again, never. And I'm testing my own pH at home here. I'm doing at-home pH testing with a pH meter. I have a video on that, how you can do it yourself. pH to me is important because moss. In the Pacific Northwest, moss is a really big problem. So I like to monitor my pH because it's getting low. I was showing you that Extreme Green product that I use, the iron. It's got sulfur in it, lowers the pH in your yard. Plus I was using ammonium sulfate. Ammonium sulfate lowers the pH in your soil. So those two things combined, my soil, which I thought from my soil test was at 6.8, is actually at 5.8, and it's low. And I did a My Soil test and a soilkit.com test, which is Mehlich 3, and the pH levels, I did them at the same time, well, within 2 weeks of each other, because I had just done a My Soil Kit test, and then I started doing the research on the test, and I found out that if I'm doing it, you shouldn't, because it's not accurate. So that was why I did the My Soil, or the Soil Kit test with Mehlich 3, and I did the comparison, because then I really wanted to know what the deal was, and I was just shocked at the results. I have that video on my channel if you want to watch that. You know, hey, I'm just doing this live broadcast because it was something I wanted to try out and do. My first attempt at it this morning was a big fail. I had audio issues that I didn't know about. I had some echoing going on, so I decided to redo it right here. I was just trying to get this information out here on some of the things I did, and I really just wanted to do a live video. I wasn't expecting anybody to watch. If somebody watched this video live, hey, great, I really appreciate it. You know, I just enjoy doing videos, like editing, like recording videos. I just like everything about it. I take pictures and videos of all kinds of things. I have so much stuff on my computer to edit, you know, from videos of cooking, I roast coffee, you know, flowers, the moon, I mean, just everything, random. And now I have the drone, and I'm really enjoying doing some drone videos. And I have more videos to edit than I could possibly do, probably in a year, or at least raw footage. So this is my McLean. This is my putting green. This is me cutting at 1.5 millimeters. I can tell you that because I know it, because when I recorded this video and I edited this video, I did it specifically because I was doing it at 1.5 millimeters, and I wanted to show you. This line you see right here, this line is basically from the reel throwing all the grass that way, that way, that way, that way. Okay, when the reel spins, it spins and it starts tossing everything to the right. And that's where the grass piles up. You can see there from when I cut it. I only cut twice a week because I work and I get off work late a lot. And if I get home after 7, I'm not mowing. And I think this night here, this was Wednesday, I believe, because Tuesday I got home late. Monday I got home late. So Wednesday I mowed it when I wanted to mow it Tuesday at the latest, because I had mowed it on Saturday. And I try to get it every couple days. I really need to mow 3 times a week. I could probably do it 4, but so it's really long, and I get these lines of this grass. So when I mow up. See, there's a bunch of lines right there. So those are not like spots I missed or whatever. Those are actually how the reel throws the blades in a pile to one side from cutting. from the thickness. So I mow my lawn at least 3 times, up and down, side to side, up and down. A lot of times on the weekends I do it 4. I do it up and down, side to side, then back up and down. And I only do that because I'm just trying to get a nice even cut. I rake it a lot of times, and I don't know if you know what it's like to rake grass that's cut at 1 millimeter. You're basically raking the dirt because there's really no grass blades. But I do it to kind of pop up anything that's laying down because that's what kind of happens with the bent grass. It grows, laterally, so it lays down a lot on the soil. So the reel doesn't really get a good cut on it all the time. And there it is. So McLean greenskeeper right there mowing at a 1.5 millimeters. And you can see my whole putting green. It's actually got a pretty good cut on it. Like I said, there's a couple of high spots that are getting scalped, but aside from that, it does a great job. And then what I do after I do a mow like this, where it's a little long, I just get my blower and I blow all the clumps off, blow all the excess off. I've never used a grass catcher on my lawn. Never, ever, ever, ever. You can go back on all my videos and you can see any of my lawn mowing videos. My putting green looks like this pretty much every time. In the winter time, it looks a little bit weaker because I don't do anything to it. I don't fertilize it. I don't do any iron. I don't do anything to it. I just let it do its thing. I just mow it to keep it from getting too long. This is bent grass, man. It just grows. It grows and grows and grows. And it pretty much needs a reel mower. If you're going to grow bent grass, you need to plan on having a reel mower. California trimmer is probably the cheapest way you can go right now at 1/4 inch. The lowest cut. That was what I started with, but man, that just wasn't low enough for me. My Kentucky bluegrass is 1/4 inch, and I'd like to go lower with it, but I'm just trying to keep a little bit of a contrast. So anyways, thanks for watching. I'm not sure if you hung out long enough to watch the whole thing here, but that's